Oh, we got a lot to accomplish. We got the governor, we got the lieutenant governor, we got the whole administration tonight. Welcome into My State of Mind. I am Dan York. On this Thursday evening, we've got kind of a hybrid governor-lieutenant governor conversation going on. I'm going to forget about the rundown because I recorded this yesterday. You know, don't tell anybody. Meaning I can't reflect on today's news anyway. But we have Lieutenant Governor Dan McKee in for a discussion about small business and how we can fix what they're complaining about. And I'll tell you how that works when we introduce him. But in the meantime, due to some timing issues the other night, I promised you some excerpts of a post-conversation I had with our governor. The governor was here 2 weeks ago, and you can see that show on foxprovidence.com. And in fact, I believe during a little vacation time that I'm taking next week, we are replaying that show. And when are we doing that? We're doing that on the governor. When? Friday? Next Friday. Okay, so you can see it then too. But there were some post-show conversations that the governor and I had on a bunch of different things. And so I'm just going to dive into them. And the first is a little roughing up I gave her on the Taylor Swift tax. You know, this tax, this statewide excise tax that she proposed in her budget for homes, second homes that were $1 million or more. She kind of knew that this thing wasn't going to work. And you're going to get beat on the Taylor Swift thing, right? They're going to take that out.
Well, I wouldn't say beat. I've been very clear from the beginning that if there's more revenue, I would be very open to, you know, changing that. Mm-hmm. I had a $200 million deficit, and I closed it with no broad-based tax increases. I didn't want to increase any taxes. So if there's more revenue in May than there is now, I might be making some suggestions on that myself.
Like, please get me out of this one because nobody likes it, and I don't want to be on the losing end of the first budgetary. You know what? You got so much good stuff in the budget. Stuff we've covered before. You don't want that thing hanging around as a signature, right?
I didn't want to raise any taxes. I'm not going to say I liked it. You know, I don't. I didn't want to raise any taxes. But I was dealt a tough hand for the $200 million deficit.
She got bailed out. The revenue estimates actually come in better this week, and she was quick to say none of that idea. So didn't she look like she was looking to get out of that? Why wouldn't she? But listen, with all the ideas you throw in a new budget as a first-time governor, you got to give her a break. The other thing that I think she kind of got away with, and I asked her about it, was the ed commissioner leaving. Dr. Deborah Gist is, 2 feet almost into Tulsa, Oklahoma at this point. But there was a big political thing going on there where the unions literally or figuratively wanted her head. And the governor was going to have to make a very tough decision. She wouldn't give it to me, but I got close. By the way, did Deb Gist let you off the hook? Did she let you off the hook by leaving? Because you had a political problem there, didn't you? The unions kind of laid off on you in the general election. They wanted her head on a platter.
Yeah.
Did she give you a break?
No, I mean, she did a good job.
Would you have kept her?
If she wanted to stay, I might have, but she decided to leave, so there we go.
Right.
So I have an opportunity to find a great leader.
Got that, but right? Right?
I'm not going to agree to that. I think she's great. I wish her well. And I'm happy I get to pick my own person.
She didn't have to pop the commissioner, which was a good, bad break. Well, a bad, good, what? Good for her politically. The whole thing is bad for us. The process of actually choosing a new commissioner is going to be an important one. And our guest actually, I think, is going to have a little input on that since he knows a little something about education. We'll ask him about that and a whole lot more with the lieutenant governor when we come back. Please stay with us. Welcome back in. The one thing that the governor said that you may have seen in our last program a couple of weeks ago that I thought was kind of neat was to actually give credit to a lieutenant governor, something that I don't care if you're from the same party or not, it just doesn't happen around here. I asked her about her executive order on consolidation and her delegation to the lieutenant governor, these concepts of trying to be more efficient from town to town, and here's what she said about it.
We need to move towards consolidation and streamlining and cutting costs, and who better than him who he has credibility with the mayors, and the mayors have to come to the table and be part of the solution. So, we have 42 school districts, 39 cities and towns. opportunities abound for saving money, streamlining, and I thought he would be a great guy to lead it.
Not often that's happened in the past, you know?
No, but I think that we're showing that we're going to have a very good working relationship with the governor's office, and it's the governor's actually lead on that because that's her decision, but she's making her staff very, very available to us, Dan.
Lieutenant Governor Dan McKee, welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you.
You must be relieved this time of year that I'm not calling you, texting you, berating you about sand.
Sand. You're the sand man.
The next mayor we bumped into each other at the local haunt on Friday, and I told him that I'd be on him.
Good.
They brought the sander into the neighborhood.
But did they do it well enough?
Awful job.
They didn't do it to your standard.
Absolutely awful. Well, you know what? Leaving a pile of sand in the middle of the road is not anybody's standard. Why didn't you leave two sanders? See, I know I'd get to. Why didn't you leave two sand trucks in Cumberland before you became this big rock star?
You don't want to know the story.
No, I don't, because I don't have enough time.
Yes, I'll tell you off air.
Yes,
I don't want to get somebody in trouble.
All right. Anyway, you enjoying not having to respond to those kinds of inquiries by constituents?
Total
these
different
days?
roles between mayor, an executive spot there, and lieutenant governor, which, as we say, doesn't have a whole lot of authority. The lieutenant governor, I think it has a lot of influence. So, two different. I describe it as a lieutenant governor as having a 1,000-piece puzzle sitting on the table, and none of the pieces together, and you're trying to put it together one a piece at a time to make the state a better place.
Well, that's a beautiful thing.
Yes. How am I doing with the puzzles?
Some would say, well, no, I was going to ask, whether that puzzle is a legitimate exercise. We'll see as we go. It seems to me, though, that you've got some project management tasks here that are wholly legitimate, and to the governor's answers to my question, I positioned it like it was a great move. In fact, she and I talked about some of her good moves. Delegating you into this role, I think, was an outstanding move because of your acumen and your networking on what is that mezzanine form of government, the mayors, which are rising in equity in the state right now. Yes?
They're good leaders, and what we did was we put all 39 shields. I have a little hallway coming into my room 116 at the State House for every community in the state, and when we walk in and I bring people in, I said, those are the people that actually elected us to come down here and do a job. So I think we're very well positioned with some great leaders at the municipal level, and you know the names. I mean, they've been here, but I think there's a whole bunch of opportunity there, from very small things that could save a lot of money to larger things that are down the road. We're looking at just getting off the 3-year cycle on property revaluation, working with senators right now and reps to get into a 5-year. And if you just went from a 3-year property revaluation cycle to a 5-year, Dan, it would save the state somewhere around $20 million over that 15 years. So there's efficiencies that can be earned outside of regionalization consolidation, but then there's also we got to prove out that actually enabling communities to do regionalizing strategies actually makes sense.
The other question that I had for you off the governor's commentary was the Ed Commissioner. Deb Gist is spilt milk, all due respect to her great effort here. I know you worked hand in hand with her on a bunch of things, including the mayoral academies. The next choice is going to be a provocative one. Are you at the table?
I think I will be, just by very virtue of being in the position I'm in, and we are interacting with the governor's staff. We've had meetings in my office with her staff relative to education, and I'm looking forward to weighing in on that.
By the way, I don't mean that Deb Gist is an accident. I think it's an accident that she's leaving. I think she shopped when she knew the political markers were on her. She did a good job.
She did a very good job.
Yes.
I thought she did a very good job, and we're moving in the right direction. And there are a number of people. I'm cautiously optimistic about where we're going to head. I'm optimistic because of the leadership's in place, including the governor and her staff, along with others. But I am cautious because there's a small group of people that just do not want to change. And Commissioner Gist was someone who was willing to step out and advocate for the changes that quite frankly we need in Rhode Island and public education in general.
And right now you got a little thing going on right now. There's a pretty proactive surge to upend or at least slow down charter schools in general and mayoral academies in specific or at least yours, that's going to be one battle here. And how are you going to handle that?
It's been a challenge all the way through, but I think that the general public understands that the competition that's been brought to the table is really impacting in a positive way all the district schools, whether they want to admit it or not. And so what we need to do is continue to advocate for the value that competition brings to the table. And I think that in the end, the best argument wins. And right now, we are making progress in our district schools, and we can show many examples of that. And part of the reason why is that the charter schools, the Blackstone Valley Prep, Merrill Academy in particular, are really driving change. It's necessitating change in the districts actually to compete with what's happening in those schools.
But there are arguments now that you've been up and running for a handful of years now, where the local school committees and superintendents are saying, listen, this funding formula for this thing is getting a little bit uncomfortable for us. You've always had the money follows the student philosophy, but do you agree that some adjustments have got to be made? I don't think we ought to be throwing the baby out with the bathwater, meaning get rid of it or stop the charter school growth. But there seems to be, you've always been pretty savvy at figuring out systemic financing of public projects. Are you going to get involved in that conversation as a mediation on this argument?
Yes, and first of all, there's not a pending financial disaster in any of our districts because of the money follows the child. Cumberland School District is running surpluses. Lincoln School District is running surpluses. So there's not an immediate danger. I think that it makes sense to be looking at a policy like a funding strategy, and you need to be continually revisiting that. It's time to revisit it, but also revisit it so that you're talking about having a level playing field not only for the district schools relative to money that is allocated from the state level or local level, but also in the charters and the Merrill Academy. The Merrill Academy and charters do not pay for their school buildings, and the districts have those paid for by combination of state and municipal money. So an honest conversation says, let's fix this, let's look at this, improve it for all the students that are in the state of Rhode Island, not just any particular group.
All right. The next project that you think you should be working on is small business, right? You came in saying that was another one of your things?
Yes.
All right. When we come back, we'll find out what the plan is, because there's a lot of discontent. Stay with us.
Rhode Island had the largest share of people saying that they paid too much in taxes out of every state that we looked at. And when we asked our pros directly, when we asked them, tell us about your business, taxes were a pretty big complaint for them. We heard a lot about a $500 business registration tax that people have to pay in the state, and we heard a lot about how difficult it is to find out the right rules and comply with the taxes that they're supposed to pay.
Right, now that gentleman is from this organization called Thumbtack.com. He was on the radio with me yesterday afternoon, and an associate of his is going to be in Rhode Island tomorrow for a midday conference held at Amica with the CEO there, the Secretary of Commerce, the Lieutenant Governor, and a couple of others to try to, vet some of the researched arguments, complaints, problems at all from small service business, correct?
Yes, it's a unique opportunity to listen to the very businesses in a setting with state leaders, municipal leaders. For the very businesses actually have ranked us as low as an F in terms of business friendliness in the state of Rhode Island.
All right, let's talk about this for a second. So once upon a time, you saw these surveys, and I'll show you the survey in a second, folks. But these surveys were coming out, and rather than sitting there and just going, okay, well, we stink. You probed this survey, right? Tell me, give me the short
background was
what
during the campaign in the summer of last year. Thumbtack had just come out and given us an F in business friendliness.
I didn't even know what Thumbtack was until
they are a unique business that has got a core group of about 12 to 15,000 retailers in the country, and they poll into those very businesses on business friendliness. So I gave John...
Well, they're not retailers, they're service businesses.
Services business, yes.
Yeah.
And so
plumbers, contractors,
yeah,
that kind of stuff.
People who earn livings as small businesses in a state. So I called John Lieber out in San Francisco, and I said, if I get to be Lieutenant Governor, what do I work on? I get to weigh in on small businesses. 3 weeks into being in office, I gave him a call. He was probably walking the streets of San Francisco, and I said, I got here, and he said, who are you? And I said, I'm so-and-so. And I said, do you ever come out to the East Coast? And He says yes. He was just at the White House, so that legitimized this group with the SBA, and that's where they're traveling from to come in on Friday, is from Washington. And so John, I asked him to come out and corral a core group of his customer base, you know, the people in his organization, along with, and then working with the governor's office with McKee McCleary, who's the director of business regulation, will be there. Stephen Pryor, who's the commerce secretary, will be there. And other municipal leaders, because we think that there is a role in government to help create a more business-friendly atmosphere in the state.
All right, so I learned that this Thumbtack group, and you go online at thumbtack.com, it's actually pretty fascinating. It's another networking opportunity for, and entrepreneurial advice, it seems, for small employers and for individual, got my shingle out, contractor and other service people, you know, accountants, whatever. I mean, whoever is kind of in their own business and has a few employees. And what they did, so you understand, is that what they do is they survey from state to state how you think all these categories of environment for business are. Wait till you see this. Can we put this up? This is not somebody coming in and looking at Rhode Island and enforcing their own thoughts on Rhode Island. This is feedback from businesses in Rhode Island. And I thought we had a closer look at some of these. Excellent, Jess. F in overall friendliness, F in ease of starting a business, F in ease of hiring, F in regulations, F in health and safety, F in employment, labor, and hiring, F in tax code, F in licensing, D plus in environmental, and an F in zoning, sorry, and a C minus in training. Listen, if you're a parent and your kid comes home with a report card like that, you want to jump off a bridge. I mean, that's tough.
It is not a pretty picture.
Now, Massachusetts and Connecticut did slightly better. They had a bunch of D's and C's.
That's correct.
All right, so I just wanted to offer some context, but that's awful.
We have to do better to expect people want to live in our state. I get to weigh on small business, and by bringing these parties together, Dan, I think that we're going to have a kind of a laundry list of things that we can achieve on a short-term basis and long-term things that can really do a significant improvement in a relatively short period of time. The state of Kentucky, when I'm doing my research, went from 49th in an entrepreneurial friendliness polling to number 5 in 1 year, which I find remarkable. We're going to visit
Well,
Kentucky.
they do.
What they did was they put these entrepreneur centers, 13 of them in the state with about 4.5 million people, and they put them selectively around the state and serviced over 2,000 small businesses in 1 year by providing them the services that they need to be, to help and assist businesses, whether it's in securing, capital, to going through the permitting process, streamlining those type of things, working with municipalities, which has a lot to do with the business friendliness, at least the perception of that. So we're going to pay Kentucky a visit. We're going to, the way that the meeting's going to go at Meeker is going to be a small group of the businesses are going to weigh in on that survey. And we're going to have state leaders and people who actually should be able to make a difference actually just listen. And then we're going to break for lunch, and then we're going to corral the 40 people that are in the room, and then the person from Thumbtack is going to outline what an A looks like. What does an A look like in the country? Now, Utah is an A. The Utah governor actually has brought Thumbtack in and has done something very similar to what we're doing here in our state right now. So this has got great potential to identify where we go from here so that we move up the ladder as quickly as we possibly can.
Well, I asked this economist, John Lieber, on the radio yesterday afternoon, are there a couple things that are obvious as to what we could do? Here's what he said.
I think that in Rhode Island's case in particular, there's two things that I would really want to focus on. The first would be just the ease of starting a business. I think that probably every politician and every person who works at a Rhode Island state agency might benefit from trying to sit down and go through the process of starting a business, registering a business, paying the taxes and the fees, understanding the forms, and just try to see what can be streamlined about that aspect of things. The second thing that I think Rhode Island really could benefit from is focusing on the ease of tax compliance and the layers of tax that are put upon really, really small businesses like the ones who use Thumbtack. That was a really, really frequent complaint that we heard. Taxes are too high for people who aren't making large margins, and that it's hard to understand the rules. So bringing some clarity to that issue, I think, could really help Rhode Island take a first step towards improving the climate.
When it's raining, don't tell me the sun's shining, Dan. And I think that that's what John is just telling you. We're seeing our report card, and now what are we going to do about that? It's going to be very measurable how successful my office is over the next 4 years. If we're still getting those grades, I would have to reconsider what the heck I'm doing. But I think that we're going to be able to play a role. It's really good, again, to be repetitive, but with the governor, kind of putting a blessing on this with their staff to participate like this, we think that there's some real good potential.
Well, I think that's what's extraordinary. Again, she offered an executive order on and supported her delegation of a project with an executive order on the consolidation regionalization thing. She hasn't gone that far and said, you are the new czar for small business, but when you run this little project, this little brainstorm of yours that began in a campaign and now as an elected official, and you run this project and the Secretary of Commerce is there note-taking, she's more or less saying, de facto, all right, look, we got some momentum over there. Let's work on it.
Yeah, and in that space,
I hope we don't get into a turf war on who gets credit for the initiatives that will change things obvious to Rhode Island down the line.
You're not going to do that because I understand our role. What I see the Lieutenant Governor doing in our office is just playing a role in supporting strategies that make Rhode Island a place where people want to live and people want to run their businesses.
So when you say, look, if we don't fix this thing, I'll have to revisit. It'll be very interesting to see, and I'm not trying to create a controversy here because we all want to see the state get better, and the governor's already shown enough good faith for Lieutenant Governor Dan McKee and his work not to cause turbulence here, but you ain't the boss. You're not the governor, you're Lieutenant Governor. So when I appreciate you take ownership of this, but you're not going to be able to, you may be able to get the ball into the red zone, but you're not going to put it into the end zone. No,
but we've got to put the strategy together, help put the strategy together that actually would be adopted by the decision makers, whether it's the General Assembly or whether it's the governor's staff. And I've been saying all along that I think there's a great deal of influence in the Lieutenant Governor's office. I mean, what we're doing on small business alone right now, and we've talked about it on the show in terms of the national grid and driving competition into that market, is going to help raise our level of friendliness in the state and the perception. What the governor has put in the budget, amongst other things, but eliminating a 7% tax on electricity for the businesses in the state. This is all rolled into one. So there's not one thing you're going to do, but yes, I think that if we don't show an improvement on our business friendliness in the polling that's out there, then we have to reassess what we're doing. But I really feel comfortable that we're going to show some real significant improvements. There's an appetite for it right now.
All right. You come back when you got this ball rolling. When's their next poll due? Do you know?
Well, I think it comes out in June, but that was polled back in the fall,
right.
so I'm
so
not
you got
expecting
a year.
We got a year to
the 2016 Thumbtack poll.
That's right.
Will be a major
Bring
lieutenant gubernatorial barometer.
Let's see what.
Oh, don't worry about it. I'll have you in before that, especially if the sand doesn't get swept off the streets in Cumberland. I'll still hold you accountable.
I got a couple brooms. You want me to come out and help?
Don't put it past me.
Okay.
All right, hit them straight.
Okay.
All right.
You too.
One more thing. Next. We're going to take a little break for the next week or so. We'll skip out and enjoy some downtime. So the next series of shows over the next week and a half will not be rundown programs, but they will be comprehensive conversations. A couple of shows we've already aired and some original programming that you've not yet seen. If you want to see the governor again, it's next Friday, and the night before that, next Thursday, the Ed Commission are on their way out. And so we'll see you soon and tomorrow night on My State of Mind.